In December 2011, Jesuits at YouTube canceled Gail's video that ordered the nuking of the Vatican, calling it hate speech. Gail now uses her own website to feature her more controversial videos, using YouTube to advertise her new videos at her website. December 20th, 2011, Gail's men visited Judge Terrance Jenkins at a Canadian hospital, dying because Jesuit Rule 13 abducted and raped him using their advanced Jesuit technology. Rule 13 ripped off his testicles, causing severe blood loss that almost killed him. While Terrance was at the hospital, Jesuits launched a Nukkake bomb, a nuclear bomb with Jesuit aids and semen in it that hit Ontario, Canada, where Gail's men and Terrance Jenkins were, and killed millions of Canadians, impregnating every woman in Canada, according to Canada's Fox News. Brent Spiner rushed to rescue Terrance Jenkins, who was left for dead at this hospital and abandoned as hopelessly lost as the bomb neared Canada. Brent, with Terrance over his shoulders, got caught in a wave of Jesuit semen from the Nukkake and almost drowned. But heroically made it just in time to the underground bunker as the door slammed shut behind him, a wave of Jesuit semen slamming on the door as it shut behind him. Terrance no longer breathed. Brent used CPR to revive him, Brent's a medical doctor, never giving up, when all thought Terrance hopelessly lost. Terrance gurgled up the semen from his lungs and started breathing, but later died from the aids he caught from the Nukkake. Though Gail had put up a YouTube video to warn the world about the coming Nukkake, Jesuits had put out a false news report that stated the Nukkake had been averted, and so it hit Canada. Terrance died, went to heaven, and came back with the cure to the very fast-moving Nukkake AIDS virus that had infected all the Canadians. When God returned Terrance from heaven, God had cured Terrance of all the injuries he sustained from the Jesuits, which was a sawed-off leg, that was an itchy leg from Jesuit Sarah Avery rape, and damaged testicles from Jesuit Rule 13. December 28th, 2011, Jesuit Zack Knight called Gail on her cell phone and used taser technology. The taser technology is where they put like a cage around the person, and then the person inside the cage gets transported. Used taser technology to try to teleport her over to him and Rule 13, who were at her mother's house. God caused the taser beam to ricochet back onto Zack Knight, and it killed him. 2012. January 2nd, 2012, Gail's men gave her a late Christmas present, which she received at her apartment. It was an exact replica of Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin's penises that she can use to enhance her brain-to-brain loving with Brent and/or Vladimir. Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Jackman, Gerard Butler, Vladimir Putin, Brent Spiner, and Terrance Jenkins watched her open their Christmas present to her on Skype, and you can view the links for this at Gail's website at gabrielchana.com/contact.html in the 2012 section of her life story. Ludmila Putin threatened Gail's life over this, and Vladimir had to arrest Ludmila and her clones as a Jesuit criminal. January 15, 2012. During the Camilla Alves Matthew McConaughey trial, Brent met Satan in the court bathroom. Gail decided to read all of War on the Saints, a Bible study about devils, at her website for Brent. January 21, 2012. Matthew McConaughey won his case against Jesuit Camilla Alves. He stated during the trial that he has wanted Gail since 2005 and never loved Camilla Alves, despite Camilla's use of bombs on his chest to obtain sex with him, and to make babies with which to trap Matthew into a relationship with her. When Jesuits wanted to execute Gail because they blamed Gail for God's ricochet of the Jesuit taser beam onto Jesuit Zack Knight that killed him, on December the 28th, 2011, God killed Jesuits in the courtroom at the Matthew McConaughey trial. Judge Terrance Jenkins stated, "Oh my goodness, I've never been more excited watching the Lord blast apart them Jesuits in my own courtroom. I thought my Glock was hot, but God knows how to turn up the heat. That kitchen was too hot even for Satan." February the 1st, 2012. Fox News created a channel just to report news about Gail. However, this channel does not air near where Gail lives to protect her from Jesuit targeting. While Brent Spiner stuck up for Gail at this news channel, a Jesuit in the audience used a machine gun to fire on Brent at the front. Hugh Jackman rushed to the front to try to rescue Brent, but the bullets from the machine gun ricocheted back onto the gunner and killed him. God, or Jesus, showed up at the studio right after he rescued Brent, and this is what Brent said. "Believe it or not, God was able to stick around shortly after the machine gun incident and gave us an interview. It was brief but succinct. According to God, all of what is currently happening now has already been foreseen, and the Jesuits are falling right into his plan. You are his favorite person on the planet to work with, which is why he's gone to such great lengths to protect you and your loved ones. All we need to do is keep up what we're doing and evolve to adapt to the continuing threat. Even when we lose battles, our failures are part of God's ultimate plan. In the end, we will come out on top of this. God says you are the best. Gail, you rock," is what he bellowed to everyone at the news studio before making his leave. We didn't see God in a physical form, but we all felt the unmistakable wake of his presence as the studio lit up like heaven. The room was very warm, like a deep, enveloping blanket. It was like being in your arms. I was filled with such powerful love, and before any of us realized what was transpiring, my heart trembled as his voice emanated from the light. He told us that he has supported us all since the beginning, and to never be intimidated, for it is all a part of his grand plan. For you, Gail, he says, that you have been hearing all of his messages to you loud and clear, so don't ever question them. You are an astute woman and have always interpreted his signs and signals exactly as he has intended them. Nobody else understands him quite like you do. You are exceptional. I told him I already knew you rocked. You are my beautiful Catherine the Great, King David woman. Nobody on earth or the internet is more awesome than you. Your legions of adoring fans would say the same. Before God left, I invited him to come to our humble church and asked if he would like to make an account on the forum. He chuckled and said he would check his schedule. I'd say the only man busier than Vladimir Putin is God. February the 4th, 2012. Gail's men celebrated Brent's birthday, February 2nd, late because Brent suffered a mild heart attack. All 50 of the men on Gail's marriage list attended Brent's birthday banquet at Church of Gail, but Jesuit Sarah Avery at 3,000 pounds showed up and kidnapped Sam Barbary, one of the 50. Hugh Jackman and Terrance Jenkins caught a vicious yeast infection to their arms while attempting to rescue Sam from the fat Jesuit Sarah Avery before Sam got sucked into Sarah's huge infected vagina. She gave birth to Sam, and when he came out, she had mutilated him and altered his personality into a Jesuit personality. God does more miracles, but the war rages on with God on Gail's side. Jesuits retaliated with UFOs and Nukakis right over where Gail lives, but God blocked them. Jesuits also retaliated with hundreds of Sarah Avery clones, including some that exploded with Nukaki bombs inside them, while God miraculously protected Gail from the Jesuits again and again. The new Fox News channel valiantly reported all this news and greatly assisted Gail and her men in their war against the Jesuit empire. But God is the final victor. Due to Fox News channel's reporting about Gail in February 2012 and the world viewing her website, millions accepted Christ as their Savior and joined her men's Church of Gail. God works mightily through the new church, performing miracles of healing and other wonders. February the 14th, 2012. Jesuits decided to hold a mass to honor Satan because of their fallen leader, Zack Knight, whom God killed on December 28, 2011. Gail's men invited her to attend their church service to counter the Jesuit Mass for Satan. When, during the church service, Brent began writing to Gail via Skype, the church started quaking like an earthquake. So the church, which can move about like a rocket, landed inside a volcano. The building became very hot. Gail's gold statue in the church melted, and a huge hole appeared on the church floor. Satan emerged from the hole, taunting Gail and her men, asking to talk to Gail. Gail read Revelation 17 and 18 to Satan at the top of her voice. Satan started sex with one of the men on Gail's marriage list, Sam Barbary, taunting Gail and telling her as she read the Bible that she was silly. Satan ejaculated his acid semen onto Sam's stomach, dissolving his abdominals. Gail refused to talk to Satan and kept reading the Bible at the top of her voice. Satan laughed with glee and said he would resurrect Zack Knight from hell and would enter his body, and that he would bestow on Zack Knight special powers so that all men would become gay when Zack Knight entered a room, and Zack Knight could turn on any woman sexually when he approached that woman. Zack Knight emerged from hell, and Satan entered his body. All Gail's men, Matthew McConaughey, Brent Spiner, Gerard Butler, etc., began to have gay sex with each other, with the exception of Judge Terrence Jenkins, who was immune because he was black. Zack Knight boasted that he would impregnate Gail and have lots of babies with her. Gail began praying to ask Jesus to appear and begged all the church to pray with her. Jesus showed up first as a light, but changed his manifestation from a dove to a light, to a body throughout his appearance. Jesus beat up Zack Knight and scared him away, but warned us that Zack Knight was the Antichrist, or 666, and that this made him very powerful, and he was not to be underestimated. Jesus cured Gail's men, and they stopped having gay sex, but warned them to be careful, because the Antichrist, or Satan incarnate, is not to be underestimated. He warned Gail to be careful about Zack Knight, but that he would protect her ovaries, that Zack Knight's sexual powers are not to be underestimated. After spending hours with Gail, her men, and her church, Jesus flew up through the roof and went to heaven. February the 15th, 2012. For the first time since 2006, Gail no longer heard from Brent. The Antichrist, Zack Knight, faked as Jesus in Gail's mind, in the brain-to-brain communications, and comforted Gail over the loss of her communication with Brent, even making love to her. Jesus, quote unquote, claimed he made her pregnant, reversed her menopause, because if she was already pregnant, then Zack Knight could not make her pregnant, but that the pregnancy would be frozen until Jesus Christ's millennial reign, and would remain in stasis or frozen until the millennium, so that Gail would not feel or look pregnant, and the baby would not be born until the millennium. In the meanwhile, Gail got strange messages from her men at the Church of Gail forum, where Brent indicated that God seemed to be punishing him because he was losing inches on his penis as punishment, because Gail took too long to make a YouTube video Jesus wanted. Gail laughed this off as Jesuit trickery and stated that Jesus would never punish Brent like this. February 21st, 2012. Brent Spiner and Terrence Jenkins asked Gail to be with them in a Skype session. And you can see the recordings of this at Gail's website at gabrielchana.com/contact.html. Jesus Christ was with Brent Spiner. Jesus informed Gail, Brent, and Terrence that Zack Knight had hacked into the computer satellite servers for brain-to-brain communications and had been impersonating Jesus to Gail as her Jesus Christ lover, and had made Gail pregnant with his black devil Seaman, to be continued.